Hello, 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 everybody. This is Shelly Rivera, Coffee, Anxiety, and Love. How are you doing today? It is Tuesday, September something or another. I don't know. It's been a good. Okay. So I was trying to use my earbuds, but all of a sudden they just died. So whatever. Anyway, today's Tuesday. I haven't talked to you guys in maybe over a month. I know my wrapping up of my healing journey is still in the works right now, so that's what I am here to talk about. I've been kind of quiet, and I'm going to do a separate video on what's going on right now as far as my family and my father, and run through what's been going on for the past 2 years. I know some of you have been following. If you're new here, thank you very much for joining me. Yeah, it's been pretty sad and depressing, but it's going to get better, okay? And it's not depressing or sad. It's just I'm working through my healing process, my healing journey. And with that comes a lot of past memories and feelings and emotions and things coming into perspective as far as what I was going through. But honestly, I was too little to understand what I was going through. And now that I'm older, I clearly understand what I was going through. I clearly remember what I was seeing, and I clearly understand why I've come to become the way I am. And that's been a huge I don't know, lesson or something. I know there's a better term for that, but it's been a huge factor of me growing, not growing up, growing. So my last video I did in mid-August, I was talking about my healing journey. I'm doing my spiritual walk right now. It's been on pause for a little bit because of my father. And like I said, I'll go through that later. But I am right now at the point where I was married for 15 years. And I was with that individual for almost 18 years. And from there we had 2 kids. And we now have 5 grandchildren from my daughter. Great kids. Love them a lot. I miss them a lot. I was just talking to my husband this morning because I have moments where I get super in my feelings, and it's because of those kids. All of them. My daughter, my son, and the grandkids. And you know, sometimes I talk it out and I move on, and I get over it. Not in the sense that I let it go, but just I'm able to deal with those feelings, get them out, and say the words, and get the words out, and move on from there. So, yeah, we had 2 kids, and now we have 5 grandkids. I got divorced, finalized in 2008, June of 2008. In the process, lost my home, a beautiful home, almost a 1,900 square foot home. We all really enjoyed it there. We lost one vehicle, a truck that was the kid's father's truck. You know, I couldn't keep up the payments of the house. I couldn't keep up the payments of his truck. And then I had a payment on my car. I kept my vehicle because I needed a way around. And that was the only thing pretty much I could afford. We ended up, the kids stayed with me, and we ended up finding a little bitty, you know, crappy little apartment in the Heights that was very affordable. And at the time I had a decent job, and not soon after I moved into that apartment, I want to say maybe 2 years after my divorce, I got laid off. And then panic set in. And that's, I believe, is when true, I'll call that my true survival mode. I had 2 kids to feed. I was a single mom. I wasn't getting any kind of support from their father. And honestly, I didn't even push it. I really didn't. I just didn't want the headache of the fights and the going back and forth and all that crap. So I chose to do it on my own. Yeah, I chose to do it on my own. And yeah, it was hard. And I could have pushed on him to help, but I didn't want the headache. I didn't want to go back to court. I didn't want to fight for something that he should have known he should have been doing. I shouldn't have had to fight, spend money, get another lawyer, and make him do what was his obligation. So I got laid off. I got laid off, and I got a year's salary or severance, and I was fine. And it took me a little while to find a job. And I got to the point where I was getting really nervous trying to find another job. And I didn't rush out to find a job either. I had, some money there. So the kids and I did some stuff, and we bought some things that we wanted. And, we did all that. And 6 months down the line, I still didn't have a job. I really didn't plan on being out of work that long. And I got a little nervous. I got a little scared. And eventually I found another job. And I ended up staying at that job for almost 5 or 6 years. So that was a good thing. But in that, after I got out of the marriage, I immediately jumped into another relationship. I was in that relationship. I just talked about that for 5 years. And then after that, we broke up. We went our separate ways. I know that now I was the one to blame for that failure. And I hate talking about this because my husband watches all the videos, and I really feel bad saying all these things. But, if I hadn't been the way I was, drinking a lot and doing all that stuff and not focusing the way I should have, that relationship probably would have been where I would be for the long term. But the way things happened with me and what I was going through and what I did and how I was dealing with my emotions, it was all the way wrong. So that got messed up. And that was on me. Then I was alone for maybe about a year and a half. And I started hanging out at a bar frequently, almost every night. And I met somebody. And when I tell you this was the worst thing I did, I honestly think it was. The person was somebody that, yes, I was attracted to them. Yes, I liked them a lot. And we were a good fit. We like I said, I liked the idea of us because he liked the same kind of music I liked. We liked going to concerts, and with him, I ended up not drinking as much, but we ended up still partying a lot. And we liked to go to concerts, and of course he liked, latching on to that because I had a decent job. I was getting paid a really good wage, and so, I took care of my kids, and then my daughter got pregnant. A little while after she got pregnant, she moved out. My son, unfortunately, got into some trouble at school, and we had to transfer him to another school. He ended up living with his grandma because it was closer for him. So it was just us, this person and me. So, yeah, we went out, we partied, we went to concerts. And in the midst of all that, I started using cocaine. And I want to say, maybe my daughter left because she knew that the vibe from him wasn't well and wasn't good for me, but maybe didn't know how to express that to me. And I've addressed that before about my family, about my kids, myself, their father, and now my current husband. We all have issues differently, but I know my issue with me is a lot of times I don't feel heavy emotions other than my grandkids and my kids. Yes, those emotions are heavy. But for a lot of other things, I really don't, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't feel. And maybe that transferred over to my kids, and it becomes this kind of, it's not my business, I'm not going to say anything, they can do whatever they want to, and we all have that attitude. And it doesn't come, feelings or emotions don't get expressed until everything comes to head. I've seen my son explode. I've seen my daughter explode many times. I've exploded many times. And it's because we don't say words, we don't say feelings, we don't express emotions, and it's not a great feeling. But maybe that's what happened and why she left. Because she knew this person, even though I cared about him a lot and I had fun with him, it wasn't, they weren't wholeheartedly with me the way I was or wanted to be with them. And they were truly taking advantage of the entire situation. They really didn't work. They didn't try very hard to work. It was, number one, it was hard for them to find work because they weren't from here, and they didn't have papers, so jobs came as they could find them, and most of the time it was paid under the table. That's not an excuse, but that's just the way it was for the 4.5 years that I was with them. I never headbutted with his daughter, but she was there all the time, every weekend. And there was, moments when they tried to put their child first above mine, but I paid rent. That house was set up, or that apartment was set up for myself and my kids. And there was a 2-bedroom, so one, of course, was the master, and then the other one was for the kids. And my daughter had already, she was already married, she already had kids. So I really didn't expect her to come back. I mean, she did at one point with her husband, which is great because I had a huge apartment at that time, and she was able to live with me for a little while. And then I had a room for my son. And my son would come over the weekends and come in and out and things like that. So that space was for me and my son because I was the one doing everything. That's the attitude I had. I'm making the money. This is my apartment. This is for me and my son. Your daughter is only coming on the weekend. This is not her primary home. She lives with her mom and she has her own room. So I'm not giving up this space for your child. And that's when things started going really bad. And eventually it was the point where I had already felt it and I knew he was cheating, and I caught him several times. And why I kept dealing with it, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe in the back of my head I thought I couldn't do any better. This can't get any better. There's nobody else out there. I'm getting older. And again, this person was, a few years younger than me. I want to say 6 or 7 years younger than me. So I just honestly felt like I was settling. Like I had to, not like, I didn't feel like I was settling. I felt like I had to. At that moment in my life, I felt like I had to settle for this because there wasn't anything better for me. Eventually, I got fed up with it 4.5 years in. It ended up that the huge apartment we had, it was almost a home. I mean, it was a huge apartment. 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Huge kitchen, huge dining room, huge living room. Um, Plenty of space for pantry, wash, all that. It was almost a house. And TVs in every room, electronics in every room, money put away in deposit boxes, and we had everything. And somebody came into our house and took everything. We were both at work that day. The kids were out. My son was staying with me, but he was going to school across town, so it took him a while to get home. And when this person came home, he, asked me, hey, were you here? Did you do anything? Where's all the stuff? And I'm like, what do you mean, where's all the stuff? He focused more on the entryway of the door and noticed that the door was kicked in and everything was gone. They literally left the mattress, the bed frame, the sofa, and a few chairs. Everything else was gone. I mean, even our clothes was rummaged through, and they took clothes out that they felt they needed or wanted. They took dishes. They took stuff on my table that was my place settings. Like, they literally treated it as if we were moving out. So they were there all day. I mean, literally all day. Taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 TVs. All my son's game consoles, like 2 game consoles, his gaming chair. So that started a lot of more tension. Little by little, we started putting things back together. We eventually, got out of the lease there. We told them we can't put ourselves back together, pay this rent, and try to feel like we're safe here. We can't do it. We moved into another small apartment, and things just started getting stressful between us. I had already caught him in the other apartment with somebody, and I just got to the point where, I'm done. You need to get your stuff and you need to leave. And I told him, I don't want to see you here when I get home. Just go. Whatever you think you need to take, whatever you think you're obligated to that I bought, go for it. Take it. Just get out of my house. And from that point, I was single for a few years. Yeah, I dated people here and there. I went back and dated somebody I had dated, years before, and that just fizzled out. It didn't work. I dated another jerk of a person that I met in AA. Excuse me, ma'am. Hello? What? It's not. It's my earbuds. She's always looking for food. Yeah, I dated another person for a few months that was just outright an asshole and was very proud of it. And why I did that, I don't know. And I just stopped, After 2 years, I just stopped. I didn't look for anything. I didn't want anything. But the drinking didn't stop either. And after that time, I started going to the gym, finding the gym more and more. I want to say it was maybe 2018, 2018, beginning of 2018 maybe, or mid 2018, that I started going to a private gym, working with the actual trainer. Not so much one-on-one, but it was just a smaller private gym, and it was a better setting for me. And I felt better there. I started, getting really good at working out, getting more interested in the fitness, area. And by that time, I had already decided, my parents had already started having health issues. And I'm like, I don't want to end up like them. I don't want to be in my 50s and struggle to get up out of bed, struggle to walk down the road, struggle just to do daily chores around the house, cooking, cleaning, washing, things like that, getting myself to and from work. I don't want to feel old at 50. So that was my mindset. By this time, I'm you know, mid 40s, early 40s, mid 40s, almost 45, and I I just I didn't want to feel that way. So this trainer started helping me see how to train and how to work and how to be more healthy. And I did. I started, showing some positive changes and feeling better about myself and getting stronger, eating better, understanding how to eat. And that's when I started getting serious about me being a trainer. Now, I've been a trainer for some time now, 6 or 7 years. Haven't really trained too many people, but my knowledge is there and the nutrition knowledge is there. And I was actually a trainer for a company called Camp Gladiator when I lived in Cleveland, and I really enjoyed that. So I've always known that I wanted to help people. I just didn't know in what respect. I thought maybe it was a nurse in the beginning, and I just wasn't sure, and this has helped me to home in on focusing on helping people. Now I want to start getting even more serious about doing that. Of course, it's a little bit more challenging being on the road, and that's been a lot of issues that I've been having lately. But in the midst of going to the trainer and getting myself together and trying not to drink as much and focusing on something more positive in my life, I ended up meeting somebody. And this was the beginning of 2019 or mid 2019. I had already been training with this person. We kind of got in on this program together in the beginning. Didn't know, but he was there maybe about 2 or 3 weeks before I started on this initial program with this individual, where this program was that person's jumping off period. And we started, we changed gyms a couple of times. We started at one place off of the Beltway, and then he had a partnership with a established small gym there, another private gym. We would go to his classes within this gym. And then he blew up almost overnight and was able to purchase his own private center. And that's where we ended up finishing our journey. That actually was the beginning of another journey. But 2018, I started noticing one of the people that I was working out with, and it all came from one little comment. And he's snickering in the background. And I hadn't really seen him before, but it was a comment, and I just had a reaction to it, and we laughed or whatever, and then that person came into view. We went to a appreciation luncheon with the trainer. He told us, invited us to go out with him, have some drinks, eat. He paid for us to go bowling. It was really, really fun. It was a very good jumping off point for a relationship that I don't think either one of us knew was coming or was even starting. And here we are 6 years later. We've been married definitely over a year and a half, almost 2 years. Our anniversary is in February. September this month. There's been so much going on that, number one, we missed our anniversaries, our first day anniversary, and then the day that I decided that I was going to completely move in with him. He had bought a house, so that's the day that I decided, I'm jumping into this completely. And I got out of my apartment, moved in with him at his house, and from that point on, we've been together. But yeah, meeting CJ, my current husband, it was something different. It was something completely different, unexpected. I wasn't looking for it. Like I said, at that time, I was trying to focus on me and getting healthier and trying to find that path. I was still drinking, not as much as I was with this individual that I left. And little by little, I had stopped, or I had started trying to release myself from the hold of the drugs that I was doing. And meeting CJ, in the beginning, it was rough for both of us. It was 2 very hard years. There was off and on, indecisiveness. We weren't sure. Number one, the age gap that we have is 15 years. And I already knew that was a challenge. Going in, my attitude was, yeah, let's do this. I want to do this with him. It's fun. But I'm not going to hold him to anything for me, because I'm at the point where, I was at the point where when I met CJ, I've already pretty much, quote unquote, lived my life. I've been married. I have my kids. By that time, I had already had grandkids, 2 or 3, or maybe all of them. No, by that time, I had all 5 grandkids. So my parenting, my doing all that was already done. And here he was, 29 years old. And to me, I felt like he hasn't really lived his life yet. So I didn't want to have him obligated to me. I didn't want him to feel like pressured from me to be there for me. If we were there, we were there. If we were on, we were on. If we weren't, we weren't. And there were times where it got stressful, and I really wanted to be with him, and I really wanted to go all in with him, but I just agreed to whatever his terms were, If he wanted to be on that week, then we were on. If he wanted to be off, then we were off. And I just kept sticking around. I kept picking at it and picking at it and picking at it. And I moved in when he bought the house for a little while, and quickly saw that it wasn't going to work. He wasn't ready. So I left and I went back to my apartment. Now, I hadn't released my apartment. I still had my apartment, but I had moved a lot of stuff over there with him. So I just packed up my stuff, put it in the car, and went back home. And I stayed there for a while, and we still talked every now and then, and he would visit me every now and then, and I would go over to his place every now and then, but it wasn't a big commitment to either one of us. And I did have a moment where I broke down, and I was feeling this anxiety. I was feeling something, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I had this heavy anxiety in me, and I didn't want to let go. And I tried. I went to him, and I had my car packed, and it was night. He was at work, and I went to his work, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Are you sure? Are you sure this is what you want? And he was adamant. Yeah, I'm done. I don't want it anymore. I've had fun, and it's just played its course, basically was the gist of what I was getting from him. And it was rather ugly. It was rather rude coming from him. So no matter how much I was feeling, no matter how much I felt like there was a strong connection, I knew deep down inside he was so much younger than me. I couldn't hold on to it. So I went home. I cried. I went to the bar and I drank. I came home. I cried some more. And before I fell asleep, I made the decision. I have to learn how to let go of these feelings, because they're one-sided. I had to make a decision that I was going to let him go. And I did. And for me, it's not easy for me to let go of something that I'm really wanting, but it's very easy for me to let go. I can tell you for sure that any of the people that I was with, any of the relationships I had, once I was done, I had no feeling about it. No remorse, no concern, no regrets, nothing. It was just gone and done. And I said that, and I said the words, I'm done with it. I don't, fine, whatever. He is young. I gotta let it go. And I tried for a long time to convince myself of that. I text him every now and then, and I talk to him. And it was, we saw each other maybe every now and then. But in my head, at that point, it was just fun. And, I tried to talk to other people, and it just didn't feel right. So I just said, whatever. So I threw myself into starting my certifications, reading up more on it, paying more attention to the kids, dealing with my dogs. I had two dogs by then, walking them all the time, talking to people, getting to know people around the complex, doing community things in the complex, just to keep myself busy and my mind off of what that was and what I needed it to not be in my head and my heart. And it never fails when you decide that you're done with something. And I had that moment. I was done. I was done with him. I was done with it. I didn't want to feel the feels no more. And I just woke up one day and it was gone. The feeling was gone. So I felt better. And I got up and I went to work and I did what I needed to do, and I kept reading, I kept studying. And, I got my little apartment together. I made my little area outside, and I would sit out there and, drink my whiskey, smoke a cigar every now and then, grab my margarita, drink that on the patio, rocking my rocking chairs, and that was good, And I had a little neighbor friend across the way, a little older man, and I would check on him every now and then, and somewhere along the way, I don't remember exactly when, but there was a conversation between CJ and I. And it was a serious conversation about him not wanting to let go. And I didn't know how to feel about that for a while. But I knew what my feelings were. And I was very guarded as far as letting him back into my life. But as we talked more and more, seriously talked, I started allowing those feelings to come back. And it was very hard for me because at the time that it was a big freeze in Houston, I had a 3rd-story apartment. He had just helped me get a little, cute little new car because the one I had was needing a lot of work. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get me another vehicle. And that freeze came about. And I did not want to depend on him to help me through it. I needed to do that time for myself. It was cold as balls. There was no heat, no light, nothing. And I had very little resources because I figured, it's gonna get cold, but it's not gonna be to where it wasn't supposed to be like that. So I didn't have very much food. Whatever I had in the pantry, I had to make do with what I had. I had some soups, I had some chilies, I had some lunch meat or hot dogs or whatever laying around. So I had this little hibachi little thing. So I went outside and I had some charcoal and I made my little fires, and that warmed me up, and I had a whole bunch of candles, and that kept the temperature not as cold. It didn't warm it up, but at least it was heat in my head. It was heat, so I felt warmer. I lost my 2 betta fish. They were so beautiful. Beautiful purple betta fish, flapping like this. His name was Prince. And then I had this pretty little pinkish red other little female. Her name was Apollonia. They froze. Didn't even think about them. But I was there by myself for almost 3 or 4 days. And I was talking to CJ back and forth, and he had the dogs out there, and they were running in the snow, and he had electricity, he had heat, he had running water. He was out in Cleveland, and it just... You didn't have electricity?
No.
Oh, he didn't have electricity. But at least it wasn't as cold as it was where I was, because he had a way to heat up, the house or whatever.
I was in the car.
Yeah.
I was warming up in the car. It was 7 degrees, I think.
7 degrees, so it was pretty bad regardless. I eventually went out there like the last couple of days, but because I was just out of food and I was tired of being alone, and I was tired of being by myself. And it was at that point, from that point on, that he and I started reconnecting a little bit more. We went through a really bad time. A really bad point where he got COVID. That was after the freeze, right? Yeah. He got COVID. And we had a really bad time there. There was another time where I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. But real talk, when he got COVID, the second he got COVID, that week, it was a weekend that he got COVID. That was the same weekend in June that my son got married. So Friday, Saturday, I was busy doing the mother-in-law stuff. I was with, his girlfriend, or soon to be, his fiance, helping her do some stuff, last touches, on the hall and her makeup, and we were getting our hairs done together and all this other stuff. And then the day of the wedding, making sure everything in the hall is presentable, make sure everybody's greeted and brought in and things like that. I was a mother-in-law, so I had to be there to host things, and he hadn't really connected with my kids yet, and he's not really social or anything like that. So I really didn't push to get him there or invite him. My kid's dad was going to be there, and we were still having issues with, him being comfortable and me still talking to their dad. Dad, babe, can you turn that off? I think it's done. Our dinner's done. So he didn't go with me to the wedding, but at the same time, at that time, again, we weren't together either. But when everything was said and done, that Friday, Saturday, I really didn't talk to CJ a lot. I didn't text him, I didn't call. Because honestly, I was just busy with my son. And like I said, we weren't together, so I didn't feel obligated to really reach out to him too much. I came back, and I talked to him and called him, and he got sick maybe a day or two later, like really, really sick, with COVID. And I understand frequency and vibrational feelings now, but at that time I didn't know what that was. But my heart felt something completely wrong, completely off. And I had that feeling many times before, with my ex that I caught cheating many times, and with my first husband, who I caught cheating many times. And I can't say that this was a cheating incident because, again, we weren't together. But I knew, deep down inside my heart, I felt it. I knew how he got COVID. And I checked out. And it was probably the worst time to check out on that relationship because he really needed somebody. And my heart, my anger wouldn't let me be there for him. And I knew wholeheartedly that if it got really bad, people were dying from this. But my heart couldn't let me feel that because I knew what happened. I didn't know the details, of course, but I knew how he got there. But I wouldn't be told until a year later. But I checked out at that moment, and it was very hard for me to go back to him. And it was just constant. It was that 19-year-old obsessed relationship. He was constantly calling and texting and wanted me to talk to him and wanted me to go over. And I just couldn't. My anger wouldn't let me go. Wouldn't let me want to be with him. My anger I was furious. And I wasn't going back. And it took me a long time to get over that and eventually go back. And it took us about almost a year. It was several months for us to mend that feeling. And I don't know if he knew that I already knew how it happened, or if he was just feeling that I had checked out. Because I wasn't even pretending that I didn't put off that vibe. I was putting off the checked out vibe like I don't know what. And that's where we are now. We got through that. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. Eventually, I started listening to him a little bit more and going in on my certifications for personal training. I had a good job that I liked at an awful company. And he said something to me, you got your certifications, jump. Do that. If that's what you want, do that. Become a trainer. Open up your own place, do your own thing, whatever you want. Go train somewhere, do it. Leave that place. You don't like it, you're not happy. And it's not the job. I like the job. I was really good. I was an accounts receivable manager, and I was really good at that job. I got their books clean. But I didn't like the environment. I didn't like the people. It was just a toxic environment. So I quit. December of, 2021, I quit that job. No, 2022. December 2022, I quit. I knew 3 months before I was quitting. I had started saving my money. I was trying to get a house. That deal didn't go through completely. So I went ahead and just started saving whatever I could. By that time I had already moved in permanently with CJ. So I didn't have rent. I didn't have all these extra expenses. He was, pretty much taking care of all that. So I just saved all 3 paychecks. And I started investing in equipment. I ended up, getting some really good deals on equipment. And we turned that house garage into my gym. And not shortly after, we got married. And now we are full-time RVers living on private land right now. And I'm not going to say that it wasn't easy. This whole journey, this whole 6 years with him has been, it's been so hard. so hard in so many different ways, you know. But he and I have come to learn a lot about each other. He's already gone through his spiritual journey. I'm doing mine right now. And mine's has just been hella hard. Because I have faced so many challenges. And it didn't just start, you know, when we came out here. We came out here in March of this year. It started maybe mid last year. And there has just been so much that has happened that has challenged me through my spirituality. And there have been comments from people, and especially from my mom. And I'm not saying that I don't believe in, you know, the book, and I don't believe in church. I was born and raised Catholic. That's what I know. I just feel like there's something more out there, something different. And that feeling of something more came when I was in college. I took an anthropology course, and that professor was extremely knowledgeable and loved to talk. And I asked so many questions because so many things came up in that course that started changing my perspective. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that it was a spiritual perspective versus a religious perspective. I just knew that there was something else that I needed to find out. And he and I have been working through that. He did his, and there were some challenges for him. Different types of challenges. Mine have been so heavy-hearted challenges that it is incredible. I am now, my statement I said earlier about us not feeling, my family not feeling, maybe that's what's helped me get through some of this. And when I say no feelings, I'm not saying we're cold-hearted and we don't care about anything. No, we do. It's just, it doesn't hit us until way later or something else comes about. We kind of just deal dry with things that are happening. And my spiritual journey has been challenge after challenge after challenge. And right now I'm going through a challenge, which I'll talk about. But I started thinking about my spiritual journey 2 years ago when my brother passed. And I can't, it's almost, it's going to be 2 years. I still can't understand that. And then all this. So with that, guys, I am going to close this book on my healing through my years of trauma, which you'll go back and see some of the videos. Trauma was a word that I wasn't fully understanding, and now I know. I have had so much trauma in my life. And there are still things that I haven't shared with everybody in my family. I shared something with CJ that I only shared unintentionally with one other person. And it was only because that person was there in a moment that that situation was talked about. And I was unaware that was going to be talked about. But that person was there when that conversation came about. So that's the only other person that knows what happened to me. And then now my husband, I shared that with him. And even that moment, I just pushed it out of my head. I pushed a lot of things out of my head because they were so traumatic, but I wasn't understanding trauma or it being traumatic, and that's why I pushed them out. I just buried them. And these videos have helped me walk through a lot of that. And I didn't want to go any longer without closing this out, because I need to start another chapter. And I need to talk about something that's going to hit, if not as hard as my brother, equally as hard. And in the midst of that, my mom also said words to me that my mom has been another issue of trauma that I still can't understand. But I will continue to talk about it, and we'll go through things with all that, and I'll let you know where I'm at. But for right now, guys, we need to head into town because we live 45 minutes away from a major city, and some stores in that major city that we need for supplies. So we need to go make a run into town, and I will come back and get the next video out for you guys. I'm trying to do work and posts and updates and all this other stuff in between me having to go back and forth into Houston lately. We never expected we would have to go back and forth, but we've been having to, and it's been a stress financially and physically, emotionally, and all that good stuff. So we'll keep talking. Alrighty, guys. Shelly Rivera, Coffee, Anxiety, and Love, Luna Fitness. I have a Luna Fitness Evo website out there. I'll post a link. Coffee, Anxiety, and Love website out there. Post a link. I also have, my Facebook, TikTok, Instagram pages. If you've been seeing my Facebook post, you'll kind of get an idea of what's going on with my dad. So we'll talk about that soon. But for today, Tuesday, Shelly Rivera, Coffee, Anxiety, and Love, YouTube, and Luna Fitness Evo YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Keep coming back. If you're new, please subscribe. I'm trying trying very hard to get myself out there. Push me out there, guys. The best thing you can do for me right now is share, like, and subscribe. Have a happy, healthy, prosperous, and abundant day.